Hi. Before I do a first lesson on actually playing a song or a tune, I thought I would talk a little bit about playing fretted instruments a bit. So mandolin, guitar, banjo, they're all fretted as opposed to, say, a fiddle. There's certain guitars like a dobro that you play as if they are fretless. A slide for a guitar is basically turning it into a fretless instrument. Anyway, for a fretless instrument, they have certain commonalities that we should talk about. So let me talk about the guitar and the mandolin. Before you start playing on an instrument, whether it's fretted or not, there's one thing it has to be, and that is it has to be in tune. There are a lot of ways to tune. You can tune to other instruments. You can tune with a tuning fork. You can tune by ear and use harmonics and such. But if you're feeling like your ear is not a strength, if you're not feeling that good, and that is who this is for, I highly suggest this tuner. Even people with good ears usually get these in the end because you have to tune to a perfect sound that almost no one can hear to get it to sound good with other instruments. This is a tuner. There are lots and lots of tuners on the market. This is a particularly cheap tuner, 20 bucks maybe. I think cheap is good in tuners. The tuner's job is just you turn it on, and then you play the string, and it says, this should be an E, and so it says E, maybe sharp, maybe flat, maybe it even says a B because you're so far off. But in any case, you need to start tuning till this thing says it's dead on, and depending on your tuner, it will look different, what it looks like when it's dead on. But you want to do that for all your strings. Then you actually have to listen, make sure it's in tune, sounds right to you. Eventually, you'll build your ear up further and further till you don't rely on the tuner very much, maybe just to get that first string. But that's an important thing, because without an instrument in tune, no matter how good you play that fretted instrument, it's still not going to sound good. So tuning, very important. And then it's just a matter of where your left hand is and where your right hand is. Get a pick for guitar, mandolin too. For the guitar, the pick is a standard guitar pick, it's pretty thin. A mandolin, this is not a very good pick. You want a pick that's thicker, fatter. They do have mandolin specific picks. Because of the double strings on the mandolin and because of how short it is, this just doesn't quite do it. Okay, let's move on to the actual instruments. Okay, so this is a fretted instrument, the guitar, and these things are the frets. The little metal wires that are in the neck are the frets, and they're not there just to say here's where your finger goes. They're not marks. They're actually there to make a note. So this is an open string, and if I play by a fret, I get different notes, right? The important thing about frets is, if I play anywhere between this fret and this fret, I get the same note. It just sounds worse in some places rather than others. And that's sort of the point of frets. Let me clarify that by showing you a fretless instrument, how it works, and then come back and talk about how to play this one. And here we have a fiddle, a fretless instrument, and here, when you play a string, open, and then note it, you don't fret it because it doesn't have frets, you note it, you get a new note. But here, if you change even slightly, it's different notes everywhere you go. You don't have the fret to distinguish distinct notes. You have to do it completely by your ear. You have to hear where the right note is. And so on in your scale. And so that's kind of an advantage of fretted instruments, is you don't have to do that. On a fretless instrument like this, once you get your ear tuned to that and you're good at it, you still have to go very fast. You know, like those crazy bluegrassers play their fiddles. I mean, it's all over the place, and somehow they manage to hit every single note quickly. Fretted instruments aren't like that. They do have their own peculiarities. So let's go back to fretted and talk about why they're harder. So back to the fretted instrument. Now that we know the point of these frets, let's see what they sound like. So open string, fret, fuzzy, nasty, something's wrong with it. Better, right on, worse yet. So the point is, where you put your finger really makes a huge difference on the quality of sound. What you want to do is get your finger as close but behind the fret as possible. Further back, more buzz it enters. That's pretty bad, huh? And then if you put your finger over the fret itself, you just can't push down hard enough. So you want right behind the fret, push hard. And that's the way it goes. When you play a chord on the guitar, you want to make sure that all your fingers are stuck right behind the fret. Another trick, of course, when you play the guitar or any other instrument, is to make sure this finger doesn't sit on this string. This finger should only be on this string when you're playing this particular chord. This is a G chord. When you do this one, this finger takes the top string, or technically the bottom string. Never can get that straight. This finger's on this one, and if they cover each other, then you don't get the nice ringing. Sometimes you actually want to do that. You deaden the other strings you don't want to play, but that's more advanced. It is tricky at times with some chords, like the A chord, to not have, say, this finger. How are they all supposed to sit behind the fret? So there are some struggles there. Some chords may not sound as good. You can try some solutions. But again, the whole point is, when you play guitar, whether it's a chord or just a series of notes, finger as close to the fret as possible, but not on it, not behind it, not way back here, right behind it. That's what you want. That's the way it is with a guitar. Let's do a mandolin and then end this one and talk about some songs and other ones. Now the mandolin is the same principle as all the others, as any fretted instrument. It's different though because the mandolin has 2 strings per note basically. And so therefore when you play it, same principle applies. You try to get your fingers right behind the fret. But because there are 2 strings, you're going to have to press harder. That's the reality of a mandolin. When you play a chord in a mandolin, it should sound like that, not like... This is the result of not pressing hard enough. You have to press pretty hard. Harder than on a guitar. That's really about the only difference on the left hand from the mandolin and guitar in terms of it. You must press harder. Also, the frets are closer together. So that can be tough, especially if you have big hands. Not really a problem for me. The same principles apply. You always want to try to get your finger right behind that fret. Okay?